Hola and welcome to ProSpanish. In just a moment you'll experience for yourself how quickly you can learn the top 100 Spanish verbs, and you'll see how this gives you the ability to create hundreds if not thousands of conversational sentences. Okay, let's dive straight in. I'm going to be using quite a bit from the 100 Verbs program, which is freely available on prospanish.co.uk. This doesn't need to be done in order, so let's just go to lesson 3. And we could present the language.
I want.
Tengo que.
I have to.
But to save time, and as I'm teaching it, I will go through it with you myself. So let's start with the main verbs. So we've got llamar. Llamar is to call. Sometimes people like to use a aide memoire, something to help them remember. So you could think of alarma making a call on a phone helps some people to remember this kind of thing. So llamar, to call. Pagar is to pay. Pagar, to pay. And as I always say, don't worry if you can't retain this information right now. You're not trying to memorize it. We're just getting a bit familiar with it. Empezar is to start or to begin. Empezar. The opposite is acabar. Acabar, to finish. To help is ayudar. Ayudar, to help. To answer is nice and easy. Responder. Responder, to answer. Responder. To take a shower is una ducha. Una ducha. To take a shower, tomar una ducha. Tomar una ducha, to take a shower. To visit the castle. Visitar, nice and easy, to visit. Visitar el castillo, to visit the castle. Visitar el castillo. And hablar español. Hablar español, to speak. So hablar, blah blah, hablar español, to speak Spanish. Now, an excellent feature of our 100 Verbs program is that you can toggle on and off the English or the Spanish. So let's say we'll just take off the English for the moment. Okay. Which of these meant to pay? Pagar. Pagar. So don't worry if you didn't get that. Which one was to take a shower? Tomar una ducha. Tomar una ducha. Okay, we'll come back to that in a second. Okay, let's have a look at this last column. A few little time phrases. So mañana, nice and easy, tomorrow. Mañana, mañana, tomorrow, tomorrow, mañana, tomorrow. Later is that's actually more late. Más tarde. Más tarde, more late or later. So tarde, late. Más tarde. And a nice little phrase at the end there, as soon as possible, is lo antes posible. It's almost like saying antes means before as possible. So lo antes posible, as soon as possible. So just looking at these two columns for a moment. How would we say to start tomorrow? What would that be, to start tomorrow? Empezar mañana. Empezar mañana. How would we say to speak Spanish as soon as possible? What would that be? Hablar español lo antes posible. So to speak Spanish as soon as possible. Hablar español lo antes posible. Okay, let's try one toggling off the translation. How would you say to call tomorrow? Let's see if you can remember that South American animal that we said that was making a call. So to call tomorrow would be llamar mañana. Llamar mañana. Okay, and let's have a look at the first column. So start off and we have I want. Quiero. Quiero, I want. I have to. I have is tengo. I have to. Tengo que. Tengo que. I have to. I'm going to. Voy a. Voy a. I'm going to. Now don't worry if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed by the sheer quantity. First of all, if you're doing this by yourself and the program from the site, obviously you can work at your own pace, but it's also important to know that you don't have to memorize everything now in one go. Bit by bit with the practice, that's where the real learning takes place. So tengo que, I have to. Voy a, I'm going to. Voy a, I'm going to. Decidí, I decided. This is nice because we can use the past. Decidí, I decided. And finally, very useful, no olvides, don't forget. No olvides, don't forget. Okay, so what we'll do now is we're just going to do a little bit of phase one. So listen out for the phrase or the word, so it's just single blocks, and we're going to identify it on the table. Okay, so phase one.
Responder.
Responder. So we need to find responder, and responder is to answer.
Responder.
Empezar.
Empezar. We need to find empezar. Empezar to start.
Empezar.
Tengo que.
So tengo que. Let's just take off the Spanish in a second. So tengo que. Which one is tengo que? And it's I have to.
Tengo que.
Mañana.
Mañana. Which one is that? Tomorrow.
Mañana.
No olvides.
No olvides. No olvides. Now, of course, we can have a little peek. No olvides. And maybe we get it wrong.
Decidí.
But we get another chance.
No olvides.
Okay, so we're a little bit more familiar with the language. If you're doing this by yourself with the program, you might want to spend a little bit longer on that part. So we'll try phase two now. So we're going to listen to a Spanish phrase, and we're going to work out what it means in English by working our way across. So let's just put it to slow it down a little bit. And of course, again, when you're doing this, you may think, okay, I'm actually going to turn off one of these, turn off the English and just focus on the Spanish, or the other way around. You're just going to look at the English and work out what's being said. So phase two.
Decidí llamar más tarde.
So decidí llamar más tarde. So what's being said there? Decidí llamar más tarde. So I decided to call later. I decided
Decidí.
to call
Llamar.
later.
Más tarde.
Quiero empezar más tarde.
So quiero empezar más tarde. So what's being said there? Quiero empezar más tarde. Quiero
Quiero.
empezar
Empezar.
más tarde. I want to start later.
Más tarde.
No olvides empezar mañana.
No olvides empezar mañana. So let's work out what's being said. No olvides empezar mañana. Don't forget
No olvides.
to start
Empezar.
tomorrow.
Mañana.
Voy a visitar el castillo más tarde.
So voy a visitar el castillo más tarde. So what would that be? Voy a, I'm going to
Voy a
visit the castle
visitar el castillo.
later.
Más tarde.
We'll just take a quick pause there while I mention our very popular Levels 1 to 6 course. This takes the complete beginner or near beginner right up to a conversational level of Spanish in a series of very easy to follow steps. So any of my videos that can be found on YouTube are supplementary or standalone videos, whereas the main Levels 1 to 6 course is not available anywhere else. It's not available on YouTube, and this is very much a step-by-step program, all still delivered by the same teacher, by myself. And while the style is very similar to what you've been used to from the videos on this channel, the key difference is that every lesson builds carefully on the previous lessons so that you can feel the progress of going from very little or no Spanish up to a level where you can confidently hold a conversation in Spanish. And to get you to conversational fluency even quicker than before, I've added a unique innovation to the site. With this boost system, you can go back over the lesson content, you can check the key structures you've learned,
Hacerlo.
practice listening,
Hoy.
test your pronunciation, and massively speed up your fluency.
Quiero
So again,
hacerlo hoy.
that's available exclusively from prospanish.co.uk. And back to our lesson. Okay, let's make it quite tricky now and take off the Spanish. So we've just got the English. And let's see if we can work out what's being said without the Spanish.
Voy a visitar el castillo mañana.
Voy a visitar el castillo mañana. Voy a visitar el castillo mañana. So I'm going to
Voy a
visitar el castillo, visit the castle,
visitar el castillo.
tomorrow.
Mañana.
Decidí responder mañana.
Decidí responder mañana. So what does that mean? Decidí responder mañana. I decided
Decidí
to answer, to respond,
responder.
tomorrow.
Mañana.
Decidí acabar lo antes posible.
So what was that one? Decidí acabar lo antes posible. I decided
Decidí
acabar
acabar
lo antes posible.
lo antes posible.
Okay, that will make it slightly harder. We're going to hear an English phrase and we've got to try and come up with the Spanish. So let's take off the English. Let's put it on to normal speed. Okay, and then let's go for phase 3.
I decided to help tomorrow.
So I decided to help tomorrow. So what would that be? I decided to help tomorrow. Decidí
Decidí
ayudar
ayudar.
mañana.
Mañana.
I want to pay tomorrow.
I want to pay tomorrow. And of course, we can always have a little peek. I want, quiero. Quiero
Quiero
pagar
pagar.
mañana.
Mañana.
I'm going to help as soon as possible.
I'm going to help as soon as possible. I'm going to help as soon as possible. What would that be, do you think? Voy
Voy
a
a
ayudar.
ayudar. Lo antes posible.
I want to call as soon as possible.
I want to call as soon as possible. And just very briefly, the reason why learning 100 verbs is so useful and will mean such a big jump in your journey towards fluency is llamar, to call. We could also have llamar la policía, to call the police. We could have llamar un taxi. I want to call a taxi. Llamar un taxi. And then there are derivatives from llamar. So una llamada is a call. So you really multiply your ability to communicate and to understand by learning these 100 verbs. So now I've forgotten completely what the sentence was, so let's go to next.
I want to visit the castle later.
I want to visit the castle later. So what would that be? I want to visit the castle later. Quiero
visitar el castillo. Más tarde.
I want to finish later.
I want to finish later. What would that be? I want to finish later.
Quiero. Acabar. Más tarde.
I have to help as soon as possible.
So we'll make this the last one of this phase. I have to help as soon as possible. I have to help as soon as possible.
Tengo que
Okay. To help.
ayudar. Lo antes posible.
So let's move on to phase 4 now. I'm moving through these quite quickly. You'll spend the time that you need to, even if it takes you a couple of days, a couple of sessions to do one of these tables. In less than a month, you'll have made a huge leap in the level of your ability to communicate in Spanish. So look at phase 4. This is slightly different. We won't be clicking on anything. We'll just be listening to the English phrase and trying to come up with Spanish before it's spoken on the recording. The pause is fairly short, so initially you'll be using this manual pause button to give yourself some thinking time. And we can slow this down slightly so that when we hear the Spanish, it's useful to us. And again, you can decide what to do. Eventually, you'd like to get to the situation where you can just do that. But initially, you might have both up there and then eventually take off the English or take off the Spanish and just have the English just as a bit of a reference. It's up to you. Okay, so let's give that a go.
Don't forget to help as soon as possible.
Okay, because it's on slow, it does sound a little bit wobbly. But don't forget to help as soon as possible. So what would that be? That would be no olvides ayudar lo antes posible. No olvides ayudar lo antes posible. And let's have a listen.
No olvides ayudar lo antes posible.
I have to finish tomorrow.
So I have to finish tomorrow. A bit more of a normal sentence. I have to finish tomorrow. So I have to finish tomorrow. What would that be? Have a think. And a listen.
Tengo que acabar mañana.
I have to take a shower tomorrow.
Okay, nice phrase. I have to take a shower tomorrow. Okay, I have to take a shower tomorrow. And what would that be? I have to take a shower tomorrow. Tengo que tomar una ducha mañana. Tengo que tomar una ducha mañana. And let's listen.
Tengo que tomar una ducha mañana.
I have to take a shower as soon as possible.
Okay, there's a lot of showers here. I have to take a shower as soon as possible. Okay, let's toggle off the English. I have to take a shower as soon as possible. What would that be? Tengo que tomar una ducha lo antes posible. Let's get it back onto normal speed.
Tengo que tomar una ducha lo antes posible.
Okay, quite fast.
I have to call later.
I have to call later. I have to call later. What would that be? I have to call later. Tengo que llamar más tarde. Tengo que llamar más tarde. And have a listen.
Tengo que llamar más tarde.
I have to finish later.
So I have to finish later. I have to finish later. And what would that be? I have to finish later. Tengo que acabar más tarde. And of course it could be I have to finish later tomorrow. Tengo que acabar más tarde mañana. And so that's a very fast way to learn the top 100 verbs in Spanish in context, in phrases and sentences, and as I said, easily possible in a month or much less than that, even a week. And you'll notice a huge boost in the amount you're able to say, obviously, but also the offshoots of these words that you'll now be able to understand. And as I mentioned before, this is available exclusively on ProSpanish.co.uk, and as I mentioned before, levels 1 to 6 available exclusively on ProSpanish.co.uk, step by step, as I mentioned before, which takes you from beginner exclusively on ProSpanish.co.uk, and as I mentioned before.